Well, hello and welcome to episode 234 of Drink the Movies. I'm Brian here, as always, with Michaela. And Michaela, if you look through the pantheon of American directors, some of those names, show up time and time again when you're looking at lists of, not even like best directors necessarily, but most like notorious
Mm.
directors or things like that. And today we're going to be talking about a film from one of those gentlemen, Spike Lee. We've not talked about any Spike Lee films before. Today we're going to be getting into BlacKkKlansman, but yeah, Spike Lee is like the peak of what you think of when you think of American cinema, I think.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's interesting to me because I grew up being very, I don't know, sheltered might be the right word. I'd heard of Spike Lee. I'd heard about his film Do the Right Thing. I mean, I heard about Malcolm X, right? Malcolm X came out in 92 when I was in middle school at that point. And I had a friend who that was their favorite movie. And they were like, you've got to watch it. It is life-changing. It's so good. And I was like, oh, okay, sounds great. I feel like for me, I didn't really have an appreciation for him and his like directing style and like the subject matter that he chooses to kind of bring to the forefront for American cinema until BlacKkKlansman, which is very late to the game, and I get it, but it's interesting because he is so notable, and yet we never covered any of his stuff until now. So we're gonna fix that right here, right on episode 234 of Drink the Movies.
That's right, Spike. It only took us 234 to get to you, but that's what we're going to be doing today. So let's do this, Michaela. Let's go ahead and take a quick break. We'll mix up a cocktail that comes, straight from the book that this was based upon. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's grab some rum, let's grab some Coke, and we'll be right back to mix up this week's drink.
So Brian, I had seen this film for the Oscars because it was up for Best Picture and it did not win. And we're going to talk about the travesty that was. Um, but when I saw it, I had watched it and I had not seen it since. And so when I was looking at trying to find a cocktail, I was really hoping that there was either one in the film or that there would be something that we could draw from historically. Because, with the subject matter of this film, right, it didn't feel right to like try and pick something from the film and kind of build upon like we've done in so many of the other films that we've done this with. So I went and did some research and I was really excited to see that while a 7 and 7 is in the film itself. That's shown up. We've actually covered that one already. But Ron Stallworth, who is the main character and who wrote the book that this film is based upon, he actually mentions a cocktail. And so that's the one that we're going to do today. It's not a difficult cocktail to make, but I think it's important for that reason.
Yeah, absolutely. So the cocktail in question here is the rum and coke, which Ron Stallworth in the book, I believe, mentions that was the first drink that he'd ever had while he was basically clocked in at work, right? He was working undercover and ordered this drink at a bar. That was his first time ever drinking on the job. So there you go. There you go. Rum and Coke is a classic of like two ingredient cocktails. If you have some rum, if you have a Coca-Cola, you are good to go. Throw some ice in your glass. Go ahead and we should give you an amount here. Let's say 2 ounces of rum and then top it off with Coke. You can garnish that with a lime wedge if you want. I like a lime wedge in mine because I think that it cuts through a little bit of the sweeter notes of the sugar cane that you're getting from the rum and obviously the sugar there within the Coke as well. So I think it cuts through that a little bit better in
Yeah,
my eyes.
yeah.
But mix that up however you want to. Michaela, what do you think about a rum and Coke?
I like a rum and coke. My favorite is a rum and diet. Um, it's skinnier. It's better for your sugar levels, I guess. I mean, there's enough
Mm,
sugar in rum to kind of ruin any of your dietary plans, I think. But I
I
like
think so.
rum mixed with Diet Coke with a cut of lime. I think the lime cuts really nicely through it. It doesn't get too sweet. Because if you're not careful, this could turn into a sugar bomb. But I don't know. I think you need at least 2 ounces of rum, especially if you're in a job where if they find out who you are, you're going to be shot and killed on the
Mm.
spot. Any undercover work, I don't think I could make it as an undercover officer of the law in any respect. I mean, we've covered a lot of undercover movies like The Departed, and in all of them, the whole time I'm like, someone's going to find them out and they're going to get killed on the spot. And so I probably would need a lot of rum, a lot more than just 2 ounces to get through it. But you do you. Everybody can make their own rum and coke dreams come true.
Yeah, that's true. Cool as a cucumber. Michaela is probably not when working undercover, so have a rum and coke for sure. Now, the rum in question here for this cocktail can be any maker model that you like, right? So you can use silver or white rum, you can use a dark rum, you can use a blackstrap rum, spiced rum. You could even use like a flavored rum, whatever you want to do. I like to use like a either a blackstrap rum or like a black rum. So something like a Kraken or the Captain Morgan Black. Those are kind of my favorite for a rum and coke. And if you are using silver rum or white rum, that is a Cuba Libre, right? So that's
Mhm.
specifically what that is. That's what the difference is there. So technically, a Cuba Libre is just a rum and coke. It just has white rum in there. Do you have a preferred rum for this, Michaela? Do you like a spiced rum? Do you like a what
I
do you
mean,
like?
I like a spice rum. Usually I'm going to use the cheapest rum I got, which is usually Bacardi. And I do not recommend any flavored rums. Spiced is fine. I don't think pineapple or like a strawberry rum or unless you're going to do like
Come
the
on now, they
really
have all those
beautiful.
flavors of Coke. Cherry Coke. Come on now.
Yeah, I don't know. That to me, that could really be too sweet. The only caveat I would say is if you're gonna do that really beautiful plantation banana rum,
Mm,
now that's real expensive rum that you're gonna be putting into your rum and coke, but that is
yeah.
probably gonna be delicious. You just don't want it to be too sweet, I would think.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. And Ron Stallworth, I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that his was made with either Bacardi or Captain Morgan, probably Bacardi. So yeah, go ahead and mix yourself up a rum and coke. It's the perfect accompaniment here to the story, and you're going to need something because this story gets a little hairy for sure, and it makes you uncomfortable in all the ways that Spike Lee wanted it to. So let's do this, Michaela. Let's go ahead and take a quick break. We'll mix up a rum and coke, and we'll be back to chat about this week's film, BlacKkKlansman.
There's never been a black cop in this city. We think you might be the man to open things up around here.
The KKK is planning an attack.
How do you propose to make this investigation?
We'll establish contact over the phone. We'll need a white officer to play me when they meet face to face.
Spoiler warning for BlacKkKlansman. If you've not yet seen this film, we are going to be talking about all the things. Um, and there's a lot of surprises, maybe, uh, at the end. It gets very tense. So if you've not seen it and you want to see it and you don't want us to spoil it for you, I suggest going and seeing it first. It's worth your time. Go make yourself up as many rum and cokes as you need to get through it because it's absolutely worth it. But we're going to talk about all the things here at Drink the Movies about BlacKkKlansman. So you've been warned.
That's right. And if your stress levels are too high to watch this, just know that Ron Stallworth wrote the book about his experience doing this. So there you go. I guess make it a little bit easier on you as the tension levels rise throughout this film. This was released in 2018. It was directed by Spike Lee, as we mentioned at the top, and this stars John David Washington as Detective Ron Stallworth and Adam Driver is Detective Flip Zimmerman, the two men who will be infiltrating the KKK, which is what this story is about. It is based on the true story here that Ron Stallworth recounts there in his book. Michaela alluded to it there. It was the winner of one and nominated for 6 Academy Awards. It won for Best Adapted Screenplay of that book, but it misses out on Best Original Score, Film Editing, Supporting Actor for Adam Driver, Best Director for Spike Lee, and Best Picture of them all. Spike Lee, still, with the storied career that he has only won one Academy Award, and that was a Special Achievement award. I guess technically he did, win this for, co-writing the adapted screenplay, but nothing in the director or best picture category.
Yeah, and it's interesting as we have talked about numerous times for the Academy Awards, right? I've loved the Academy Awards or loved watching them, and have been fascinated by that dynamic since I was in my teens. And I feel like, it's one of those things where at the time something is announced as a winner or a non-winner, you might feel real good about it in the moment, and then later history doesn't maybe end up being on your side. I'm looking at you, Shakespeare in Love. I love you so much, but you absolutely should not have won Best Picture. Saving Private Ryan should have, and I'm standing by that. But I feel like this year I was shocked that this BlacKkKlansman didn't take home more awards. And I was shocked then. And now after seeing it again, for the purpose of the pod, I am even more shocked. And not to say that other actors and other people didn't do great work, but I just think if you look at where we are today, especially, this film really puts the nail on the head of like a lot of dynamics that we're seeing in American society today. And Spike Lee's bravery and like dedication to the craft to tell this story in a way that really doesn't alienate an audience, but makes them very uncomfortable, which is what it should do. It was really, really cool. So it was really tough to see that it really did only win one. It absolutely should have won the one that it did win, which was best screenplay. But I'm still really surprised that it didn't take home more accolades from the Academy.
Yeah, absolutely. So Green Book, of course, was the winner that year. We also have nominees for Black Panther, Bohemian Rhapsody, The Favorite, I don't even know what that is, Roma, A Star is Born, and Vice that year. And that's something you could more or less kind of do, I guess, anytime that you're looking back at Best Picture winners, is a couple years down the road, take a look at that list again and see how those films have, stood the test of time, how like culturally relevant they remain into the future. And obviously this one, very culturally relevant today, like even more so as today. And we'll circle back and come to that here as we kind of get through the movie. We're probably not going to go, certain plot points on this, but just kind of talk about the movie as a whole here probably makes the most sense here. So let's start with Detective Stallworth. This is John David Washington's character. John David Washington is the son of Denzel Washington and amazingly good actor in his own right. It's kind of absurd, right, to be able to pass that down from father to son, but really kind of gets his big, I guess, movie break here in this, which would be a really, really challenging role for something for you to, kind of put the feather in your cap of this is like your break into Hollywood. He'd done a couple of things, right? He'd been credited in a couple of things that, his father had been, he'd been kind of, small characters in that. He'd done a couple of other things, but really this was the big, like, Hollywood film for him to make his own mark in the world.
Yeah. I feel too like he's so amazing in his delivery of this character, right? This character is based on a real person, so you have that going for you or against you as an actor, right? You're gonna want to portray and pay homage to the reality of the situation. The fact that this story starts off with saying like this was real stuff, and you're still not sure because it just seems so incredulous that a person of color would like try to infiltrate the KKK. Like, how would you do that? Especially in the middle of Colorado, that doesn't make a lot of sense. And it also seems incredibly dangerous. But the fact that this character, I mean, John David Washington had to, create this realistic version of a person, but also the duality of what he's trying to do and what he believes, and how these two ideas that you could be a police officer and also not be a racist. Like how could you do that, right? And he's really trying to, or not be a racist maybe, but not be part of the systemic racism that is happening all around you throughout
Sure.
any sort of law enforcement that was going
Or
on in America at this time.
At least to
right?
acknowledge it, right? For sure.
Right. And so I think that to me, I mean, there is so much going on inside this character, and it is so beautifully played. And it's funny when it needs to be funny, and it's terrifying when it needs to be terrifying, and it's like soulful and like enriching when it needs to be. And he just does it. And the fact that, I mean, it's no wonder he's Denzel Washington's son, because only somebody of that caliber of acting could pull this off, because he does it so beautifully well. And it is such a tough subject matter, right? Piece, right? Like there's just, it's pretty amazing how he handles both like the comedic timings of the stuff that's supposed to be funny, but also the really tough scenes. He does so beautifully well, and equally talented, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of incredible to watch his portrayal here in this film. And the film actually opens up with it's kind of a cold open into Alec Baldwin, who's playing a character by the name of Kennebrew Beauregard, who's basically making like a propaganda film for, I guess, like the white nationalist movement. And it's chilling to watch because it goes on for the first, I don't know, probably like 4 or 5 minutes of him, delivering kind of this monologue where he's, speaking into the camera to like I said, to make this propaganda kind of film there. And it really sets you like in the correct headspace for watching this film. And I think that's one of the most brilliant aspects of the film. We kind of, ping back and forth off of this point. But Spike Lee, I think, made this story, which is set in 1972. I think that he made it as though it were set in 2016 because it very well could have, or 2018, because it very well could have been set there, and then puts like the skin of 1972 like over the top of it, which is very chilling because the only thing you can think about watching this period drama, quote unquote, is how relevant it is.
Yep. And we we talked a little bit about what movies we're going to pick and drink the movies, right? And there are some movies we'd love to cover that we just haven't yet. And this was a hard one because both Brian and you and I both were like, how are we going to talk about this? And addressing kind of the elephant in the room. It was so like this whole story of this man who wants to go undercover into the KKK and how he wants to infiltrate that. And while he's dealing with all of the things that he's dealing with in 1970, you're absolutely right. We're looking at these pictures and we're watching this story unfold. And in my head, I'm like, man, this could have been last week. It could have been 2 months ago. It could be next month because of just kind of the way we want to believe that progress has happened on so many of these issues. And I'm not saying that work hasn't been done, but there's still it feels very disheartening to see that in many instances we are exactly where we were. And in maybe some cases even have reverted to even further back in time, which is chilling. And I think it was amazing that Spike Lee had the proverbial gumption to be able to put it on a big screen and make it also palatable enough for people to watch it, because it's only when people are willing to at least acknowledge that these things are happening that we're able to do anything about it, because otherwise people at large will become these bystanders that become part of the systemic problems that don't ever get solved then.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about a little bit about the police force here. So you've got Detective Stallworth there, right? Ron Stallworth. He's going in the city of is it Colorado Springs is where they
Yeah.
are, I believe. And basically he sees it's more or less like a flyer, I think, kind of thing. But they're basically hiring their first person of color to go work at the police station. He decides that is going to be him, so he goes in and kind of applies for the job. And of course, then he gets assigned like the worst desk jobs. He's in charge of like the evidence room. So he gets some pretty kind of comedic scenes of that, of him trying to get out to go work in narcotics and things like that. And it only turns about that he's ever going to get his real chance to make his mark here on the police force when they need him to go undercover and basically go into this rally where a former member of the Black Panther Party is going to be giving a speech to these college kids, right? That's kind of what gets his foot in the door here for the undercover work. And then we're introduced to kind of the two other undercover officers here. I guess there's like a whole department of undercover officers. I don't know if that's true in Colorado Springs, if they really have a huge department, but maybe they did at this time. But there's at least two others that we need to know of right here. We've got Detective Philip Flip Zimmerman, who's played by Adam Driver, and you also get Michael Buscemi, who's playing Jimmy Creek. I've probably seen Michael Buscemi in other stuff, but it's so weird to see Michael Buscemi, who is not Steve Buscemi, who looks and sounds exactly like Steve Buscemi.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but he does such a great job. He's the one who's like miking them up and everything, right? Like when they're
Yeah,
trying to take
he's
records and
hilarious.
stuff.
He's so funny.
He's great. He's great. And Adam Driver as this detective Flip Zimmerman, he is apparently Jewish, but they have a lot of really good conversations about, while it arguably, the going into the Ku Klux Klan doesn't like anybody that's not like an Aryan white person. So he would be in trouble too if he were found out to be a Jew. And they had some really great conversations because at first they don't really like each other that much, but I think by the end there's a big level of respect between the two of them because
Hmm.
Ron is trying to explain to Flip that, hey, you're in this fight too. You need to decide, like, like you're still kind of have this us and them, like I'm doing this as a favor and you're part of the oppressed group here, and this is going to matter to you, and even if you didn't grow up uh you know culturally Jewish, you are, and you're going to be in just as much hot water as me if we get found out. Like, and wouldn't you want to be part of that solution than part of the problem? And I think that some of those conversations are really great. Adam Driver is amazing. I have loved him since he was in Girls. I think that he is kind of underrated because he's also done some really great stuff with like Star Wars and things, but that's like
Hmm.
arguably not like a huge stretch of acting. But he is so brilliant in this. I could not have imagined a duo, from a characterization perspective, that would have been a better fit than these two actors together.
Yeah, they play really well off of each other. And to kind of get set up the bulk of the story here is you have Detective Stallworth, who is now in the undercover department there. He sees an advertisement for the local chapter, I guess, of the KKK, and decides to ring him up on the phone, right? And that's going to get his foot in the door with that. And obviously, as a black man, he can't really, show up to a Klan meeting or a what do they call it in the movie? Because all the people that are in the Klan refuse to say it, of course, because they're
They call it the
should
organization.
they rightfully should be ashamed of being in such a thing. But yeah, they
Mhm.
refer to it as the organization. Obviously, he can't show up to it, so that's when Flip
Mhm.
Zimmerman comes into play, and they're going to handle this a little twofold. I thought maybe it would have just been easier to have Flip Zimmerman just go ahead and start being the one on the phone as well, instead of having this two kind of head approach, I guess, to doing this. But I think it was important because Ron Stallworth, I think, kind of understood the motivation from the Klan
Mhm.
more so than Flip Zimmerman might have there. So that's what's going to happen, right? And then from there on, it's an undercover sting. You have Michael Buscemi's character. They're kind of along for the ride as well, right? Going kind of on stakeouts, making sure that everyone's mic'd up, and they have their kind of interactions and their little debriefs, I guess, after each side of this. Flip side of the coin, I guess, has their interactions with the Klan, and that's kind of how the bulk of the story goes. And we're kind of interacting with the Klan then over the phone, locally and also nationally with David Duke, who's played by Topher Grace excellently. And those are by far the highlights of the movie. It's when you have Detective Stallworth on the phone with people, and he's just riling them up and sending them down like this long line of thing, and everyone in the office is just like gathered around to like listen in and laugh at these complete idiots that are on the other side of the phone. That's pretty amazing. And then the more tension, I guess, stricken moments are there in person, right, between Flip Zimmerman and
Mhm.
the other members of this quote unquote organization.
Right. It's interesting to me, and I just want to point out again, I don't, there's so many layers to this. Um, you know, Flip's character is this is over a couple of months. It's not super fast. It doesn't take years, but it's not weeks. So this is months of work that's being done where Flip is meeting with all of these folks. They're meeting in these houses. And he's got brains. It's pretty obvious that he's pretty smart, as this character of Ron Stallworth, right, that he's playing. And he goes from being like an unknown to getting an actual card because they gave out cards, okay? And so and that's how David Duke meets Ron Stallworth. Ron Stallworth actually calls, the real Ron Stallworth calls and talks to David Duke to say, "Hey, can you expedite my card creation because I need the card in order to go and do all the things." And so that happens. And then as soon as Flip Zimmerman's version of Ron Stallworth is like, I don't know, indoctrinated into this mess, they want to make him like the chapter leader. Like, because he's the only one with brains that's not completely, absolutely nuts. And there's a phone call that one of the current chapter leader, is trying to have with somebody, and says, "Look, I think it's time for me to move on, but we can't, like anybody else is gonna, this place is just gonna crumble because we got a bunch of crazies that are also in this quote unquote organization. So you're the only one with like your head on your shoulders who's maybe not completely insane. And I found that to be really interesting because as a that even David Duke was like, we got to do something because this thing could get very, very off the rails, and it does because when you let crazy people be in charge of things like this, things ultimately go very, very wrong very quickly, and we see that towards the end of the film. One of the characters is like, I just want to make a bomb and plant it somewhere and create havoc, and that luckily they're able to stop it. But I found that piece of it was really interesting to me.
Hmm. Yeah, that piece of it is interesting because you have kind of this group of knuckleheads here that are there. You have like the married couple who try to plan out this bombing that's going to lead into the kind of the most tense part of the film there at the end. They're the
Mm,
Kendricksons, I believe, played by
yep.
Jasper Packanen, and Ashley Atkinson as Connie, his wife, who is the absolute worst. But you have this group of characters here, and they all have, I guess, the same motivation, but they all have different, I guess, kind of interest levels in doing it. You have the character of I don't even remember what these people's names were, but you have the one there that is like very like aloof to it all, right? He's mostly just there because he's a good old boy, just drinking beers. You have the ones that are
Oh
more
yeah,
militant,
Ivanhoe.
the ones
Yeah.
that are more organized, right? So you have like this coming together of people that have completely different, I guess, kind of grasps on what what they're doing, what they're trying to do. I think so. When you have, Ron Stallworth, or the pseudo Ron Stallworth, Flip Zimmerman, coming in, who is a police officer who understands kind of organizational aspects of this thing. Yeah, it's going to propel through pretty quick, and David Duke, I guess, realizes that and decides that now's a good time to go visit Colorado.
Yeah, yeah, because there's this big, I guess, initiation thing that happens, and this is where things go very, very awry because David Duke is a citizen of the United States and he has rights. So they believe the Colorado Police Department, the Colorado Springs Police Department, has reason to believe that he would be a targeted person. And so, what do? They ask Ron Stallworth, like the real Ron Stallworth, who's been talking to this guy on the phone, and they know that he's been talking to this guy on the phone for months now, right? And they make him go and like protect him at his own KKK meeting, um, and that is in kind of unbelievable. I don't know if that really happened. I mean, knuckleheads. I don't know, but that whole scene is it's gripping. It is more scary and more terrifying to me than any of the Conjuring movies that just made a billions of dollars, right? It because it's so real, and it's like if they knew. And there's a moment even when David Duke is looking at Ron Stallworth, who he's never seen face to face, and he's like, have we talked? Do we know each other? And Ron Stallworth is again cool as a cucumber, and like, no, I don't think we do. And you're just terrified that something is gonna, tip off this entire group of crazy people with a lot of weapons. That this sting is going on, and it's incredibly tense. And all's well that ends well. But it's that I mean that's one of the scariest points of cinematic movie making that I've ever seen. I was,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It gets very stressful, and yeah, I mean, you have Ron Stallworth being put into this position by Chief Bridges, who's played excellently by Robert John Burke, because Chief Bridges is the absolute worst, and Robert John Burke is the absolute best at being the absolute worst here in this instance. But I do like they do have kind of an ally here, and it's Sergeant Trapp. Is that his name? I
mm,
believe, played by Ken Garrido, who is there, who kind of pushes back, right? I guess he would be like the second in command, maybe, to Chief Bridges here in this, who tries to keep this undercover operation kind of out of hot water to keep, I guess, the rest of the department like out of their way and off their backs, and which means it's all the more maddening after this whole sting operation is done that basically they just say we're gonna scrub it because people don't need to know about this, which is the absolute worst. Wanted to talk a little bit about Patrice Dumas, who's played by Laura Harrier. She's the college student who Ron Stallworth meets at this kind of first undercover gig that he's at right at this speaking engagement that. Um, the former Black Panther is there to give, and her character is amazing because she kind of lays things out for Ron Stallworth, right? Who might be looking at things with a little bit of rose-colored lenses at the start
Mm,
of this tale, right? Being new to the police force, it always wanted to be a policeman, doesn't necessarily see those things until she kind of highlights some of the inadequacies, I guess, of policing at this time in 1972 and probably today.
hmm.
I thought that the issue was great and kind of like a North Star, I think, for Ron Stallworth in this story.
Yeah. Yeah, I really enjoyed some of their I want to say banter, but it was deeper than that. Like some of their debating back and forth, right? Now he waits a good long time to tell her exactly what his job is and who he is, because he knew that she probably wouldn't take lightly to it. But she sees things in a very kind of black and white way. I mean, it is one way or another. It's very finite. And you're either part of the problem or you're part of the solution. There is no room for being a like an innocent bystander. And I really do think that even at the end, right? She's one of the people who they in their plan B, the Klan ends up trying to put a bomb under her car because she's the student union leader.
Hmm.
She's the one who's making all this noise. She's the one who was able to get Kwame Ture to be to show up and give the talk in the first place. And so they are wanting to silence her now. All's well that ends well. That in that sense, they fail, and she's okay. But even at the end of that, even in the final conversation that she's having, that we see with Ron Stallworth, she says, you're just, we can't be together because you're not on the right side of history here. Like and you've got to open your eyes to what is really happening and be, actively part of that solution. And I don't know how you're going to do that if you're still going to have respect for this oppressive organization that we are going to call the police force, right? Like and the fact that you feel for Ron because you think his heart is in the right place, but you also feel for her because she's not wrong in all of the things and all the assertions that she's making, right? Like, how do we, and it really brought me to think about, like, how do we change a system that is, really where the game is written a certain way and it's just systemically oppressive? How do we fix it? And how do we do that without wrecker balling the whole thing, or is that the solution, right? I mean, and so and then you get in your head about, like, well, my gosh, what is this really saying? Like, what do we really, if we're going to be part of the solution, what do we really want? And I really thought that was, again, just another layer to this film that makes it so great. And still, again, my mind's blown why it wasn't given more accolades, because it's very varied in all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, it did get the accolades that it got. So, kind of going into rewatching this, I was looking for those things, kind of in hindsight of, the acting, of the writing, of the score, which is sensational. The score is done by Terrence Blanchard and is absolutely incredible. So, yeah, all that stuff obviously was up to par. One of the things that was really striking to me was just the amount of detail in the production design of making this
Mm.
feel like it was 1972. I kind of alluded to it there at the top, and I don't know if you kind of viewed it the same way as I did, but it felt like Spike Lee had made a movie that was set in 2017, 2018, and then like just like colored over it with a paintbrush of 1972. But that's what it looked like, because it seemed like it was very detailed, both in kind of the environments of the settings and like the streets that they'd be walking down, the cars, the way that the towns looked there. Apparently this was all shot in like like downstate, just outside of New York City, which makes sense because it's a Spike Lee film. But like all the exterior stuff, I thought that it looked and felt really great. Like it felt very much like it dropped you into this world of Ron Stallworth.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end, you know, after they make some arrests, some people, you know, get their comeuppance. Even inside the department, there's a sting operation where they catch that guy who is awesome at being horrible. I never hated a guy more in my life than that officer, and I was so glad he got it at the end. But even at the end, they had kind of alluded to talking about these characters of that time, like Shaft, or would you rather be a pimp, or would you rather be a cop, or would you rather be all of these other characters.
Hmm.
And I love that final scene where you see them, Ron and Patrice together, and there's a knock at the door, and they both take out their guns, and then you go back to this seedy 70s kind of this grittier film. It is not shot that way the rest of the film. It's just this like maybe 4 or 5 seconds, and it's supposed to be like them walking
Hmm.
down a highway or a
Yep.
hallway, right? With their guns drawn, and then you get that beautiful like score that just takes you into a very uncomfortable place. I thought that was just amazing, because you're right, like this could actually have happened at any time. There was nothing that real, other than their hair, right? And they make sure everybody sees that. But other than that, like, and the cars, like this could have happened 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Um, and it can happen 2 years from now if we're not careful.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because the film ends with coverage of Charlottesville. There, and this film premiered on the 1 year anniversary of that date. So, let's talk about Spike Lee, I guess, a little bit here as well. We'd mentioned, kind of, no, I don't, one of the stalwarts of American cinema, and Spike Lee has done a lot of stuff. Kind of his directorial style in a lot of ways, especially this. Um, it felt very kind of parallel to like a Tarantino kind of a thing, but completely different in like the amount and variety of work that they do. Because Spike Lee, I think, is just like a lover of the format of film,
Hmm.
and will basically do anything. Like he has like some like insane number of directing credits, like 136 here on his IMDb page, because basically he'll direct anything I think that probably interests him. So, music videos, commercials, documentaries, short
Hmm.
films, television stuff, feature-length films, which, amazing stuff, right? I mean, so Do the Right Thing was, probably the one that, really got his foot in the door as far as, these big Hollywood type of things, which came out in 1989, going on to Malcolm X just a couple of years later in 1992, Jungle Fever, even, all the way up to obviously this film. And then what was it? The Five Bloods, I think, which came out in
Yep.
2020 potentially, which also had a lot of Oscar buzz. I think it ended up missing out on a lot of that. But yeah, Spike Lee's been doing it for a long time, and has been doing everything for a long time, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. It's when I went back, I didn't realize he had done the 25th hour, which is amazing. You should go see. I mean, if you have not seen it, go see that. Um, uh, I mean, there's a lot. Oh my gosh, there's a lot that he's done. And I think it's so cool I mean, you're right. He does so much of so different of like mediums. There are things that are, we say Tarantino, right? Because he is known for a certain aesthetic or a certain kind of framing,
Hmm.
if that's the right term. Um, but with Spike Lee, like he'll do, like he did Inside Man, which I loved, which is amazing, which is very different, in a lot of ways. Like it's very different. I don't know. I think that it's good that he's gotten a Lifetime Achievement Award. I think we need to. I can't wait to see more of what he does, because I do think that it's one of those things where it doesn't seem like enough, especially when some of the films are so appropriate now. And when we talk about like, you know, American cinema, I mean, there's nothing like that dedication to that craft in this way is very, it's very different. Um, and so Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I would say the Black Klansman is like his crowning achievement, because there's just so much good that's out there. But definitely, um, it it changed the way I thought about a lot of things. And I think that that's what it was supposed to do, especially for someone who looks like me. It's supposed to make us uncomfortable and it's supposed to challenge our thinking. And I think that it did that really beautifully. In a way that it should have. Like you should be shook by the end of this, especially the last like 3 minutes of film, right? Like if
Mhm.
you're not shook, you're probably not a human being. So,
Yeah, you're not watching the right thing for sure. Um, yeah, absolutely. It's definitely worth a watch. I mean, it's hard to watch. It's very funny at moments. Like it has this great sense of like darkly comedic slant to it, which makes watching for the general public, I guess easier to grasp and get on board with. But the lessons that are learned throughout this thing to shine a light on this story, which if you take the film at face value, largely was tried to be buried at that point, for multiple generations now. 1972, that was what, 53 years ago now at this point. So quite a long time for this story to have been out there. And yeah, absolutely is great to see it get the light that it deserved. And should it have done better at the Academy Awards? That's a discussion for a different day for different people than us. But certainly I think that we both feel that way in terms of the accolades that it did garner for that. So yeah, any other thoughts about BlacKkKlansman here, Michaela?
no, I think you've nailed it.
All right.
It's great. You should go watch it. It's great because it's also terrible. Like it's and that is important. We should watch those things.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that's going to wrap it up here for episode 234, BlacKkKlansman. Let us know if you watched this back when it came out in 2018. Let us know if you've watched it recently, and let us know if you have mixed up a rum and coke to have while you're watching it, or if you're reading the book. Definitely check that out. Maybe that's going to be on my to-do list here over the next couple of weeks. So let us know all that. Let us know what your favorite kind of rum is. Let us know what your favorite Spike Lee movie is. Let us know all that stuff. You can do it on our social medias. It's at Drink the Movies on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and facebook.com/drinkthemovies. If you want to see pictures of the rum and coke that Michaela made, if you want to get episode recaps, cocktail recipes, links to Drink the Video Games, to the merchandise shop, all that stuff can be found on our website. It's www.drinkthemovies.com. That's the best place to go to get all of that information. And there's a link to our Patreon. It's patreon.com/drinkthemovies. That's the best place to go if you want to support the podcast. We appreciate our patrons over there and have a lot of fun doing, bonus episodes, cocktail chats, hangouts, all kinds of stuff is over there. Again, that is patreon.com/drinkthemovies. Michaela, we've got another we have another movie lined up for next week. We have a couple weeks of watching things at home, and then we're going to be back at the theaters here. We're getting a little bit of a respite there from our summer blockbuster series that seemed like that was going on and stretching us thin. But we're going to be getting back to the theater. We're going to be watching some stuff at home, and a lot of good stuff coming up still for the remainder of this year. Now that we've ticked over into fall, is it fall officially yet? I don't know for sure, but where can people follow along with the podcast?
You can follow
Oh,
us.
but
I did. Yeah. Uh, yeah. We're on Spotify. We're on Good Pods. We're on Apple Podcasts. Anywhere where Spotify podcasts are supported and distributed. We do 2 drops a week here at Drink the Movies. Our lobby bars happen generally on Mondays, where we talk about an easy cocktail that anyone, even you, can make, as well as what's going on in the box office. And then we do our deeper dives like the one you listen to right now. If you want, there is a subscribe button, but there is also a rating button where you could leave 5-star reviews. And that would be really awesome because every review you leave helps spread the Drink the Movies love, gets more Drink the Movies listens and viewers. And we couldn't do this without all of your listening ship and support. So we're so grateful for that. If you even remotely like video games, you should go check out Drink the Video Games. We have a brand new episode. I say we, it's Brian. Brian has a brand new episode out. I show up to give you a cocktail, and that's about it. But it's still amazing. You should still check it out. And that is Drink the Video Games. Leave a 5-star review. Send all of that stuff to your social media, all your brethren there. Yeah, it helps us get all the Drink the Movies, Drink the Video Games stuff out there.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. And thank you for everyone who has listened along the podcast. So, like I said, let us know what you thought about BlacKkKlansman, and we'll talk to you next time on
Drink the Movies.